All right. Hey, everyone. I have a special treat for you today. I'm here with Jack Haas. Hey, Jack.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
We have snow up in on the ground here. How about you?
No, it's just cold. I'm not ready for snow.
Yeah, we've had snow for a week here now.
North Dakota, right?
Yep.
Ooh,
Yep.
no thanks. Well, Jack and I met because I was on his podcast, which is called House Dudes, and you guys, you deal with a lot of investors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yep. A
we were
lot of
talking
investors.
about short sales on that podcast. And I thought this would be a really great opportunity to bring you to our audience because we're real estate agents. And short sales, we both believe, are definitely going to be coming back around. And that's going to give us an opportunity to work with a lot of investors. But investors aren't your average like buyer. So, can you give us some tips on how we can work effectively with our investors?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be speaking from my perspective because we've
Sure.
worked with we work with a lot of realtors.
Yeah.
And you're probably familiar. A lot of we get some realtors who bring us pocket listings.
Okay.
And some of those listings are houses that need a little help before
Yeah.
they really hit the market. Um, so they'll bring them to us to see if we'd be interested in giving it a facelift. Um,
Well, and that's a really good way if we have a client and they are maybe hesitant about putting it on the market and having people traipse through, or like you said, it does need a little bit of work. So maybe it's not really good for like a buyer. They may be willing and wanting to take an investor offer, which is
mhm.
typically like a quicker close, kind of as is, at
Yep.
a lower price.
Yeah. So that's exactly what we do. And
Mm-hmm.
what I would advise the realtor, just so that everybody's on the same page, is that if you're talking to an investor in that type of capacity, what we do and we feel is right is that if a realtor brings us a property and we acquire it, we
Mm-hmm.
feel an obligation to list that property back through the realtor who brought it to
I
us.
love it. Now you're speaking our language.
So you just want to make sure that that's spoken or up front so
Agreed.
that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, like from the client's perspective, it's like, there's a number of different ways you can sell a house. You
Hmm.
can do like a lease purchase, which most people don't want to do. You could sell it to a buyer, but then you need to do all these things to get this price. Or we could sell it to an investor. And so I think like giving them talking through the options is a good idea.
Yeah. So in those situations too, we have struggled, and maybe you can give me some tips on this. We have struggled with some talking to some realtors so that they understand the price point we need to get it at in order to
Hmm.
make it worthwhile for everybody.
Right.
Um,
What's your
because
formula? How do you do that?
well, we really rely heavily on the realtor who brings it to us.
Hmm.
Um, so we've had everything from sadly, everything from hoarder houses. We've had
Hmm.
realtors bring us hoarder houses, and families just don't know what to do with it.
It's too much work. Yeah.
It's just too much for them to
Right.
deal with. To things just need to be updated for the neighborhood to support a higher dollar amount.
So what kind of, because I know like the investors that I work with will get like whatever the AR after repair value, which a lot of investors call that ARV, so after
Hmm.
repair value, we subtract out the cost of bringing it to that, like bringing it up so we can get that, like where is it at
Hmm.
now versus does it need new kitchens, bathrooms, or just need paint, floor? What does it
Right,
need? And then we deduct out like a profit, and that's really where they would need to be.
right. And the realtor is going to have, or I mean, the investor is going to have different guidelines as to what they're going to expect to
Mm-hmm.
get as a profit. But
Mm-hmm.
you're exactly right. We would look at that ARV. What can the neighborhood support?
Right.
Most investors, most investors are likely not going to price it at the high end of the market. Most investors are going to be conservative, so
Because they don't want to hold it.
they don't want to hold it. They want quick sale. Um, so that's exactly like you said. We would take the ARV, subtract any repairs that need to be done,
Right.
subtract our profit, and then we kind of come in at the offer. One thing that's sometimes missed though is that investors, as an we make sure we take into account the payments to the everybody involved.
Oh, duh. Yeah, like if you're getting money from somewhere else, like private money or the loan amount. Okay.
Right.
I guess I was
So
thinking just straight cash, but also they would want to deduct out like the cost to resell it since they're be paying
exactly.
commission. Depending on the price point, they may be paying closing costs.
Yeah, and we probably go even conservative on that. We assume 10% of the cost to sell.
That's a high.
Yeah, but if you take into account like the buyer agent, the seller agent, that can be sometimes in my area can be up as much as 7% at that point.
Okay.
Three and a half,
True.
three and a half.
Yeah.
And then we always have something on the ICR.
Uh, what's that?
The inspection contingency report.
Oh, I was like, what is ours? I was trying to think of like something clever. Like we used to in the financial world, we would call it the GOK fund, the God only knows,
Yeah.
like who knows?
No, and maybe it's different terms across the country, but we have an ICR. So it always costs me money.
Inspections, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if we're looking at this from like a math problem, if I'm an agent and I don't really work a lot with investors, right? So like it seems like it would be depending on how bad it was, like somewhere but around maybe 50 to 60% of the actual after repair value.
Oh yeah. And in fact, a lot of our properties are almost 50%.
Are they? Okay.
We have eked up towards 70% depending on how much repairs are needed.
So I would say for like agents, like as we're talking through this, I'm kind of thinking about like, I don't think there's not every agent wants to work with investors because they're putting in a lot of offers. And it's, I mean, if you're talking about, they're not really getting them, right? But like,
Mm-hmm.
if you are like a realtor that maybe works a lot in a particular area and you're coming up with houses kind of all the time, I think it's good to be able to have investors in your pocket that can give you offers when it's not about the money for the seller, when it's
Mm-hmm.
truly about like the time and the ease of it,
Yeah.
and they know that they'll be taking a reduction because it needs so much work, or they just don't want to deal with it. Like you said, maybe it's a probate or something like that.
Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised at people's reasoning. I mean, um, uh, frankly, I'm talking to somebody right now who's thinking about selling me their place because they're moving to South Carolina
Hmm.
and they don't want to sit on the property through the winter here.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't either. You already have snow. It's
Right.
terrible.
So, it's their decision. It's their
Well, and
their
even as
motivation.
a realtor, if we're presenting to clients, we could say, look, an investor is going to offer you some, like, say it's a $300,000 house. Like, you're probably going to get an investor offer of somewhere between like 150 and 175. If you
Mm-hmm.
put in the 10,000 to fix this bathroom, you could get a buyer to buy it for like 225, but then we're pushing it out our time frame. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, I mean, maybe now we're in the middle of Christmas or whatever it is. So like it's kind of a balancing act, like Mr. Mrs. Seller or whatever. Like, what do you really want? You know,
Right.
what's
Right.
important to you? Do you have any like really good tips that you've learned along the way that we as realtors can like when we're working with an investor that you're like, that realtor is really good. Like we want to work with them again.
Follow up.
Oh, what? That's all people.
But it's so true with realtors. Like, unfortunately, we have a ridiculous amount of realtors in our market per
Okay.
capita. I just think it's almost silly,
That's weird.
but it's frankly, it's the follow up and those people I can count on that I'll go back to time and time and time again.
Okay.
So
Nice.
in the end, being one of our markets is Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah.
You know, Fargo isn't a big city
Yeah.
by any stretch, but there's 900 realtors in that little market.
Wow.
Right, exactly. Most of them, I'm going to say 90% of them really don't do the volume that we're looking for.
Sure.
And then so you're kind of seeking out those people that can follow up, help with some different things. And frankly,
What do you mean help
uh,
with different things? Like,
well, like you said, some people won't. We have realtors who turn me down for submitting offers on my behalf because they're too low. They don't want their name associated with it.
Got it.
Um, but then on the flip side, we have other realtors who they'll just
Send it in.
they'll just send it in. They figure that the volume will make up for it. So
Yeah, we on the investors, because I work with a couple of investors, and we like just create a template with the paperwork. So then when they can just like tell me what they want to offer on a particular house. But like mostly I usually know. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Because like you said, you can look at the house and see if it needs everything, and it's
right,
a 1,500 square foot house, like this is going to be tens of thousands of dollars. It's not going to
right,
be a dollar. You know what I
right.
mean? And they know they're getting an investor offer. Or in our case, like if it's been on the market for a few weeks and it's not selling,
Hmm.
it could be time for an investor offer, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, and we have some realtors, a couple of realtors in our market that are really good at when they submit the offer, they kind of prepare the other realtor and the
Hmm.
buyer, a little more communication, just saying, I know this isn't what you're looking for, but just heads up, we have an
Yeah.
investor offer coming,
Yeah.
take it with a grain of salt, kind of a thing. So it kind of
Well, and
it
sometimes
helps.
what I do on mine too, like if I'm submitting an offer for myself, I'll just like keep it open for a long time. I'll be like, if you like, if I'll talk to the agent, just like you said, and they're like, well, they're getting ready to do a price drop. It's like, okay, well, why don't you take a look at this cash offer? But they
Hmm.
could still like do their price drop. And if they don't get something in a few days, just come back. It's fine.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
fine. You know,
exactly, exactly.
I've won some houses like that. So,
So, and then and then I'm going to throw another thing at you. The other thing we use realtors for a lot
huh.
is to let me know what the market trends are happening.
Okay.
Like, so I'm typically, for me anyway, I really like working with realtors who have an opinion and a good designer eye
Mm-hmm.
to let me know, like, right now in our market, lighter flooring with white cabinets, light and bright is a big trend in our market right now.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
and if it wasn't for the realtor telling me this recently, I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
And because I took her advice, we sold the house in 24 hours.
Nice. Good. You should just stick
So,
with her.
but it's great to work with realtors that have an opinion regarding some of that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. And a lot of that stuff too, you can look at the pictures of what's sold and there'll be trends there, right?
Mm,
So like that will be really helpful too. I guess the other thing that kind of one of the other reasons why I see a lot of agents not work with investors is because they feel like there's no loyalty there. So they feel like they're doing like a lot of work, like
mm,
submitting, you know, 20 offers, then none of them get accepted. And then the investor will go and buy something from somebody else, maybe even unrepresented.
mm. That's completely understandable. And I don't,
Yeah.
personally, I don't sign an exclusive brokerage,
Yeah.
any affiliation either, just because I have enough realtors now bringing me opportunities
Hmm.
that I don't feel like I can provide that level of
Be
loyalty.
exclusive.
All I can do is, if a realtor brings me something, I will list it back through
They
them.
get it back. Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, I like to only have like a couple that I work with, honestly, because then I could get to know them. And my co-host Monica will love this, but develop a deep relationship with them and then be like, hey, I've got this house coming up. I want to present an investor offer. Here's the details. I think you'd pay X dollar amount. And they would be like, in their head, because we've worked together so many times, they'd be like, you know what, that sounds right. Like we could do that deal. And then it's
Hmm.
like, okay, good. So then it's not taking up so much of my time too. You know what I mean? But I know that they get
Right.
deals from other people too. But when you have a relationship with them, like that lady could call you up and be like, hey, I've got this house. Like,
Hmm.
you want to come check it out? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if a third of the houses we've dealt with have come through realtors.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So where do you buy houses besides, is it just Fargo, or is it Fargo, or did I make that
Yep.
up? Okay.
No, we're in the Red River Valley,
Are there any other cities in North Dakota besides Fargo?
Grand Forks.
Okay, all right.
So, so we're hockey people around here. So most people know UND. UND hockey's big.
I don't know what that is.
So, but yeah, up north as far as Grand Forks, and down south as far as Wahpeton Breckenridge. So
Okay,
it's a pretty big
big.
swath.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. So if there's any agents out there listening to this, how would they that have deals there or have a referral there or something, how would they get a hold of you?
They can go to housebuyingdudes.com. If
Nice.
they want more information regarding like just the company in general and all of the offers, everything that we offer, just housedudes.com.
Cool. And then the podcast is House Dudes also.
Yep, House Dudes, everything's House Dudes.
I love it. There's this cigar shop in my neighborhood, and obviously they sell cigars and stuff like that. And they do a dude daycare, and they say dudes of all genders are allowed in the dude daycare. When you visit
Okay.
Cincinnati, I'll take you there. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, I'll take you up on that.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. I know sometimes like investors and realtors have like a love-hate relationship, so it's nice to kind of hash through a couple of these things with you.
Yeah, and that conflict, I really don't. I find it kind of unfounded. As long as you can find people that are willing to work together, I mean,
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, most conflict
okay.
stems from a lack of understanding anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's
So I
well
hope
said.
people gain some understanding. And I think with, as we begin to get more short sales, our investor relationships are going to be definitely more valuable, especially getting things started with the bank, getting an offer in there. We can help each other.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you inviting me on the show. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Bye.